Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Darvanalee Designs. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole, and today is our Stitch With Me BookTube. So basically what that is, I'm going to do some stitching and I'm going to talk about the books that I have read in the past week. So let's get started. So today we are working on Pandemic. This is by Long Dog Samplers. I am up in this section here. Still a long way to go, as you can see. It is early hours of Monday morning, so it is around 6:30 in the morning. Not so early, it is daylight. So so we're working on Pandemic today. We're going to also talk about the books that I have read in the past week, which there are many. I managed to get a book a day. Also, the floss that I am working with is a Silks for You. I thought I would take the opportunity to show you what it looks like because the sun is shining in here and it is actually true to colour. So that's what the hank did look like. I've since cut it, but you can see these beautiful colours in the red and everything. So you can see how it is starting to come together. So we are in the middle of DDs Spooktober and we are stitching on all things Halloween. So my needle minders are today, and I'm sorry I can't actually remember where I got them from. I think I may have got them from Gina's Unique Needle Minders on Facebook a couple of years back. I believe she's in the United States, but she does have a yeah, I did actually, because I got with this one I got a scissor fob with it as well, and I thought this was cute, a needle minder and also a needle threader for those not so great eyesight days. So as you can see, I have not done much since the last time we did a Stitch With Me, but I am going to be working this area here. I do have my pattern keep because this pattern it works really well in Pattern Keeper. Off to the side, I've got my needles threaded. I have my cup of tea. Today I'm in a Mickey Mouse cup, so you can see that here, and I've also got some water as well. I'm going to spend about an hour with you today, and we are just going to stitch along and, as I said, talk about the books. Now, I will say it will be a voiceover for the books because I just shooed the parrots off, so they're quiet for right now, but I can hear them starting to come back. They're in the backyard. So I'm going to switch over to the voiceover and talk about some of the books that I've read in the past week. All right, so as I said, I have read a couple of books this week. Well, actually quite a few. I've pretty much got a book a day in, except for over the weekend. I was actually reading a Kindle book. Actually two Kindle books, The Ring and Apples Never Fall. That was part of our reading challenge over in the group. So I do want to talk about that first. We do have a reading challenge, like reading bingo, happening over in the Facebook group, which is DD's Quilting and Crafting. There's a lot of people over there that love to read as well, and there's a few that can't actually sew at the moment, so it's a great way for them to join in the fun. It has had a good response. I'm really happy with the response that we've had. A few people have been posting their books that they're reading. Yeah, I managed to get my book read. The first prompt was read a book that was made into a movie. That was a pretty easy prompt, if I say so myself, because like a lot of books have been made into movies. Some people chose to go with a TV show, which was fine. You know, I'm not worried about that. It's just encouraging everybody to read and stuff like that. So, so basically what's happening with that is I have 12 prompts, so they're numbered 1 to 12, and I roll the dice every Saturday morning, and that will be whatever the number is on the dice, so between 1 and 12, that is the prompt that we have. So, basically the first one was read a book that had been turned into a movie. The next prompt, which was Saturday just gone, which was a couple of days ago, it was read a book from the New York Times bestsellers list. Now that could be right now this week, or it could have been in the past. So just to make it a little bit easier. And so I chose to go with the latest list, and I chose Apples Never Fall by Leanne. I can't pronounce her name. But I will be talking about it next week. So, no, I can't think what it is. It escapes my mind. I do apologise for that. Maybe I can look up on my phone. That might be an option, Nicole. Let's do that, shall we? All right. So I do have it in Goodreads. So there are a few people that are following me over on Goodreads. So thank you very much for that. The one I chose was Moriarty. That's it. I knew it was something like that. I kept wanting to say Morrissey. I don't know why. But anyway, that is the book that I'm reading this week, and I'm reading that on Kindle because it's not available on audiobook. So the first prompt, that, as I said, was a read a book that was turned into a movie, and I chose The Shining because it was actually one of the first, quasi horror movies. Like, I guess for its time back in the early 80s, it was classed as a horror movie. Now I just call it a suspense movie. But is that because I've become accustomed to horror movies and horror books? I don't know. But anyway, I chose to read The Shining. It is actually a reread for me. The Shining was first published in 1977, and it is by Stephen King. I mean, most people have heard of The Shining. It's got 659 pages, and the reason that I was reading that is because for the month of October, I'm actually doing horror classics. So I have basically gone to Google, typed in horror classics, and there's a whole list that comes up. And I just scrolled along the list, and I basically picked out some books. I was judging them by their cover. And so I basically did that, and I've got a list there to get me through the month of October. So that's what I'm doing there. So we've got, as well as the bingo. So as I said, the first one I picked was The Shining by Stephen King. I've seen the movie. I had read the book way back in the 80s. I've only ever read it once. So even though this is a reread, I knew the story, but I'd pretty much forgotten how much of the story I'd forgotten. like I didn't realize that that doesn't make any sense at all, but I didn't realize that it actually hadn't stuck. So it was almost like a new read. I like Stephen King. I've read a couple of his books. I've watched a couple of his movies and from the books and stuff like that, and TV shows that he's done, Stand Dome, all that sort of stuff. I haven't read a lot of Stephen King. I did have a lot of his books once upon a time with the intention of reading them, but life got busy, then they got damaged, and then I got rid of them because I had a little 8-year-old that wanted to read them, and just not appropriate for an 8-year-old. So, as I said, I think this was his first book that I read back in the 80s, and it was also the first film of his that I seen back in the 80s as well. I would have been 11 or 12. When I first seen that movie. It was when it had first come out. So, yeah, it was back in the early 80s. Oh, gosh, I'm dating myself now. But I love the movie, and I also love the book as well. Now, rereading the book, the book is so much more intense than... Like, the movie was intense, but the book is so much more intense. It gives you a lot more background of the characters and all the rest of it, as books generally do. So the reason I like reading Stephen King is because he just builds his characters so well, and he gives you the background, and all that sort of stuff. And he flips from one thing to the other in this book about, the storyline and all that sort of stuff, which is great, and I don't mind that. But I only gave it 4 stars. Because it was a reread. I think I may have spoiled it a little bit for myself. I'm not really sure. But I really enjoyed it. There was a funny moment, like I was listening to it, because I was listening to it. So I was so engrossed into because I was doing some stitching while I was listening to it. And I'm sitting there stitching away, and I'm listening to the story, and I was so engrossed in the story and all the rest of it. And I live in a house that's raised off the ground. So it's on concrete pillars. And anyway, when you walk around in this house, you can feel people walking around the house because the wooden floors and it's on concrete stumps and whatnot. It's not raised right off the ground, but it's raised about half a metre off the ground. And Savannah is like a baby elephant at times. Anyway, I was so engrossed in the story, and it was up to the part where Dick's trying to get to the boy, and the father's lost the plot, and you think that the kid's going to get hurt and all the rest of it, and basically, yeah. So I'm basically really into this story, and then her room's right near my stitching room, and she banged on the floor and the whole house vibrated. I mean, I jumped. You could have scraped me off the roof with a spatula. She scared me so much. So basically the story follows along with Jack and his family. Jack lost his job, and through a friend's recommendation, he ends up out at the Overlook Hotel. And basically he thinks that he's going to be able to reconnect with his family and get some writing done and all the rest of it. Well, the hotel has other ideas, and basically his son has a gift. He can see and hear things and stuff like that other people can't see. And there's another character, Dick, in it who also has the same ability as the child and all the rest of it. Ultimately, he's the hero and comes and helps them and all the rest of it. So yeah, the boy's only 5 years old in the story, so he struggles to understand what he's seeing and hearing and all that sort of stuff. And I found the mother to be a bit of a flake, to be honest. Like, yeah, I thought she could have been a bit of a stronger character, but yeah, anyway. There's a whole heap of things that happen in there. I don't want to give too many spoilers away in case you haven't read the book. It is actually a really quick read, believe it or not, and Jack is basically a recovering alcoholic, and he's struggling and all the rest of it. And then he becomes obsessed with the hotel and its history and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, and one thing leads to another. And I should say that they are at the hotel by themselves because it's in the off season. And is it actually set in Colorado? Yeah, I think it's up in the mountains of Colorado is the setting for it and all the rest of it. And this hotel has not had good luck at all. It has, it is a very old hotel. It was built in the early 1900s, and it has gone through a depression. It's closed several times. It has not had a really good track record and all the rest of it. True to form, Stephen King brings that little bit of, suspense and horror and all the rest of it to it. And, yeah, so they end up there in the off-season as a caretaker because he lost his job for being aggressive towards a student and all the rest of it. And so he's given up drinking, and he's here in this place. He's thinking that he can get back to his screenwriting, or not. Oh, yeah, screenwriting. He's writing a play and all that sort of stuff. And reconnect with his family and all that sort of stuff. And just, as I said, one thing leads to another, and basically shit hits the fan. That's the only way to explain it. As I said, I gave it four stars, and I think it's because it was a reread. It's a good book. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to it. Would I listen to it again? Maybe in another 20 or 30 years, maybe. I'll give it another go. But I'll just make sure Savannah's not around, because, cross, I'll be 80 then, and I'll end up having a heart attack. She'll better kill me on the spot. But it was, I did really like, excuse me, I did really like it and enjoyed going around again for that. So that was on the Monday. I polished that off. That's how engrossed I got in the story. I was just like working away, and I kept working until I think it was like 7 o'clock at night. I finished the book, and I just thought, that's great. It's done and it's dusted, and I can move on to the next one. So the next one, that was the first bingo prompt done. So I went to my TBR, and on my TBR I had another Stephen King book, which was Carrie. Now, Carrie's another one that I didn't read the book. So I think I picked, my mum had the book, and I think I picked it up and started reading it, but never finished it. I think I may have read the first 2 chapters, but I did see the movie, and I watched the movie with my mum. And again, I was only very young when I seen this movie. And while it's not really a scary movie, I wouldn't class it as horror. maybe back then I might have, but this time I haven't really. It's suspenseful, like it's pretty predictable too. But this book is actually on the classics list. Both The Shining and Carriage are on the classics list. The basic story is it's about a misunderstood girl. She's bullied at school consistently, has been through her whole school life, and she has a religious fanatic for a mother who is abusive and, yeah, basically bullied at home, bullied at school. So she has an ability of telekinesis, so she's able to move things with her mind, for those that don't know what telekinesis is. And so she can move it with the power of her mind. So she's had a couple of incidences through her life where things have happened and stuff like that. But fast forward to her teenage years, I believe it's her last year of high school. And basically it opens with a shower scene where all the girls are just finished gym. They're in the shower, they're showering and all the rest of it. She gets her periods for the first time at the age of 16. And basically she thinks that she's dying. Because she doesn't know anything about it. Her mum's a religious fanatic and doesn't talk about that sort of stuff or anything at home. In her mother's eyes, anything to do with you becoming a woman or having sexual relations or anything like that just makes you an evil person. So it's narrated by Sissy Spacek. She was also the star of the original movie as well. So it was like listening to the movie. It was first published in 1974. It's only a short book. It only has 253 pages, and it is, as I said, it is on the classic horror list. And I started this on the 5th, which was the Tuesday, and I finished it on the same day, 4 hours, done and dusted, for 5 hours or something. As I said, it's just basically your typical teenage girl being bullied in the shower. They start throwing stuff at her. She gets very cranky. On the way home, she sort of realizes that she can do things with her mind, and so subsequently she keeps practicing doing that. And then excuse me, one of the girls gets her boyfriend to ask her to the prom, and she accepts and all the rest of it. Well, basically it all went pear-shaped at the prom. This girl basically gets stuff dumped on her, and she just goes on a rampage and pretty much wipes out the town. So to speak. There's really no way you can talk about this without giving away spoilers and stuff like that. Really, I didn't find this horror. It was teenage angst, really. It's just a basic story of bullying and all the rest of it. Although it was written really well. As I said, it's by Stephen King, and so I enjoy his books. And I enjoyed the movie as well. It was reasonably portrayed in the movie when I watched it when I was younger, and it is one of my favourite movies from back then. Both The Shining and Carrie were probably my standouts of his from back then. I mean, he's got a lot more since then, but yeah, it was a quick read, nothing really to write home about. If you want to read it, it's great. If you want to listen to it, it's a good book to listen to. It filled in the day. But I am going to give it 5 stars because it is completely different from, like, there's a lot more in the book than there is in the movie and stuff like that. And it just highlights, the relentlessness of someone that's being bullied at home and then bullied at school and stuff like that. And I guess in a way I can sort of relate to that because I was bullied at school at one of the high schools I went to. It was actually my second last high school that I went to, and anybody that's been here for a while knows that I've been to a lot of different schools, and I didn't have the best childhood either. The best parents and in the world. So although they weren't religious fanatics, thank goodness for that, they were probably the other opposite end. But it wasn't a great childhood and all the rest of it. So I could sort of relate to her in a way that, on a personal level, I guess, and just feeling, isolated and not having any way out and having to turn to that would, like, I mean, I don't have telekinesis, obviously, but you know, I could see her point, like why she just lost it, and you know, everybody has a snapping point, and that's the key to it. Everybody has a snapping point, and her snapping point was that prom and the things that went down at the prom, and she lost her proverbial, and yeah, she went on a rampage, and that, I mean, it didn't end well for everybody. I mean, and all the rest of it, so. But at the end of the day, they were only kids, and did they deserve that? Probably not, but that's the way she ended up going. So, as I said, I gave that one a 5-star rating, and I think it's because I had read a couple of chapters and I'd seen the movie, but I hadn't actually read the book. So that's a really good indicator that I think that sort of sways my star rating and all the rest of it. But I think if you like that sort of thing, you'd be right into it and you'd really enjoy it. So moving on to the next one, keeping up with the theme of horror, suspense, dark sort of reading and all the rest of it, and also keeping on track to be reading the classics as well, I slipped in The Picture of Dorian Gray. So this was a really interesting book for me. This was the first time I've ever read it. I have actually seen the movie. I cannot remember the movie. I can't even tell you who starred in the movie, but it was on the Golden Years of Hollywood or something that I watched back in the 80s with my parents. Obviously, the movie didn't really resonate with me, but I as I was reading it, I was getting snippets of the film and like memories were coming back of it. So I know that I have watched the movie. But as I said, this was a first time read for me, and I'm really glad that I read this book because I think not being able to remember or recall what the movie, like I know what the movie was about, but not being able to recall it, it made the book a lot better. I really enjoyed the banter of the characters in the book and all the rest of it about general life and things like that. One of the characters, I just wouldn't want to hang around him. So basically, if you haven't read The Picture of Dorian Gray, it basically follows the story of a young man called Dorian Gray, obviously, who predominantly sells his soul to remain youthful, and and all that goes with that. So selling your soul to the devil or the powers that be or whoever he sold it to. He wanted to for, I guess, eternal youth and beauty, because the artist that painted the picture was, I would go as far as to say, in love with Dorian Gray, because he just found him so pleasing to look at, and he was a bit of a muse for him. I felt like he was a bit of a muse for him, even though it wasn't portrayed that way. That's the feeling that I got, that whenever Dorian Gray was around this artist, he just come to life and he was painting the best he'd ever painted and stuff like that. And so I don't want to give away any spoilers, because if you haven't read this book, all I'm going to say is you need to do it. It is a really enjoyable book. I did not think, like, I haven't been really getting into the classics. I've been trying to read them, and I have been reading them. I started with Jane Austen, but I really think I should have started with The Picture of Dorian Gray. I think that would have spurred me on. And now I get it, like, because I read these books and I go, I just don't get it. Why is everybody, I get that the writing and all the rest of it and for its time and yada, 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 but I just don't get it why they've become the classics and they've stood the test of time. Like, there's so many other books now that have surpassed that, in my opinion. Now, before all the haters get on and start yelling at me or yelling at the computer, calm down. That's just my opinion. You are entitled to your opinion as well. And you know what? For the most part, I'm happy for you to have that opinion. I just don't have to agree with it. But The Picture of Dorian Gray, if you haven't got into the classics, pick this book up and read it. And I just could not stop listening to this. I was in the car listening to it. I was in the supermarket listening to it. I was at home working listening to it. I was cooking. Like, I did not take that earbud out. Now, I did slow this book down. Now, normally, if anybody's been here for a while, you know that I actually speed my audiobooks up. I did actually slow this one down to 120. Normally, I listen to between 135 and 180. speed. But this one I actually listened to at about 120, and that was a really good speed because there was a lot of language in there and stuff like that, and it was a little bit wordy. I'll give it that. And but as I said, I just could not stop listening to this. I just wanted to keep knowing what was going to happen, and yeah, it's just amazing. I don't even know how to describe how I feel about this book, because the way it ended was brilliant, like absolutely brilliant. I was expecting it to keep going, like he's gone up into the room where this picture is, and that's all I'm going to say. But yeah, I just it was just like, I'm like, have you ever read a book where you've got to the end and you've just gone, oh my God, that is the perfect ending. Like, it was a book slapping moment. You close that book and went, bravo, that was a brilliant way to finish the book. So if you don't know, it's the book is by Oscar Wilde. And yeah, so it just I just loved it so much. I just don't even know how to put it into words. I think he was about 18 or 19 at the time of the story starting, when he was getting that picture painted. And as time went on, you know, people were always drawn to him and stuff like that throughout the book. Is it Sir Henry? Sir Henry? I can't remember. Did I write that down? He, as I said, he had the artist, Basil was painting him, and then and he didn't want to introduce him to his friends or anything like that. Then he introduced him to, I think it's Sir Harry. I haven't written down the name, of him, but he ends up telling, like, going out into the garden and all the rest of it while the artist is just finishing up and all the rest of it, and they're talking, bantering away and all the rest of it. And basically Sir Henry basically says, you know, that your youth will fade and yada, yada, yada. So that's why he ends up saying that he made a wish, essentially, that he remained youthful and all the rest of it. And the story goes from there. And then it just, you know, it goes along with him realizing later on that something is happening and people are drawn to him, but then at the same time they're also repelling away from him as the story progresses on. And then the way it ended, it was just like, slap that book closed. Although I didn't have a book, I had an audio book, but, you know, slap that book closed, slap it down and go, yes, you did it. That is perfect. That is the perfect way to end that story. Absolutely loved it. 5-star rating. No ifs or buts about it. 5-star all the way. So if you haven't read The Picture by Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, do it. That's all I can say. Go get that audio book. Go get that Kindle book. Go and buy the book. But do it. You'll enjoy it. I can't rave about it enough. And as I said, I just don't even know how to put it into words. Like, it was just, it's not a feel-good book, just so you know, but it was a good book for me, and then it was like, now I get it. Now I get why these people are going on about these books and all the rest of it, and the classics and that. So it's actually spurring me on. I am going back to Jane Austen. I will be definitely going back to Jane Austen, and finishing out her books. I think I've got 4 to go, 3 or 4. I started Emma last week, the last week of September, but I haven't picked it back up again. So that's still sitting in my audio to be listened to, because I'm only listening to the classics because I don't have the books here and I don't have a bookstore in Kingaroy. So it makes it a little bit hard to whip down the road and just go and get them. Anything, and I've decided that I'm not necessarily going to buy all the books, and that Savannah's got a lot of the Jane Austen ones because she's going to inherit them, all my books, because she said to me, I'm taking your books and I'm taking your craft, they can have everything else. I'm like, great, thanks, Savannah, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're planning my death. Anyway, so basically I figured that anything that is a 5-star, I'm going to buy in the physical book to put on my bookshelf so I can pick it up and read it again in the physical book.
Yeah, so because I don't want to have, like, I'm trying to scale down and get everything neat and tidy. I'll need another house at this rate for books. So I decided this week, while talking about that, I decided this week that I was actually going to get myself a Kindle Oasis for Christmas, which I have ordered. So it's said it's been shipped, so it's on its way. Because I've been getting into more and more Kindle books and all the rest of it, because I get BookBub, which is an email that comes to me, and it has a selection. I think it's about 5 or 6 books each day, and you get them at a discounted price. Like, I've got books for free that have been absolutely phenomenal. Other books I've got for like $1.99, and then it's only $3.50 for the audio to go with it. So I'm getting some of these books that with audio, so I can listen to them on an audio book for a third of the price, because, you know, as you know, when you buy stuff off, there's some things that are reduced, and you've got Audible Plus. Is it Plus? Yeah. And you can get books for free on that part of it, and then you get a free book, and then you've got your credit because you've paid your monthly subscription, and then you get, sometimes they have discounted books and all the rest of it, but for the most part, most of them are $14.95 Australian to buy. And, you know, that's dearer than a physical book. If I go to Big W or I go to like Dimmicks or somewhere like that, that's actually still dearer than buying the physical book. But I have got into audiobooks big time this year, and it's been great because I'm actually getting a lot of the books that I've wanted to read that have been on my TBR for quite some time. I'm actually knocking them over. And then there's a few that I'm revisiting, like The Shining, and there'll be like Lord of the Rings. I think I read the first, because when I was younger, I'm positive they were in 3 books. I think they just come as 1 book now, but yeah, so, or it was in 1 book and now they come in 3. I can't remember, but anyway, I picked that up and started reading it. I never finished it. There's also Game of Thrones that I want to read, but I don't want to go out and buy these physical books because there's the series, they're a series and all the rest of it. So, and they're, you know, they can be quite pricey. Like, you know, you go in the shop, you don't just buy 1 book, you end up buying it, you know, 4 or 5. Before you know it, you're in to a couple $100 worth of books. So in saying that, I don't want to keep every book, and I don't want to have every book that I have read on my bookshelf. So basically, I decided to go with the Kindle, and I am now waiting for that to arrive. But then I no sooner ordered that, and I found my daughter's, I think it's a Paperlight or something. I don't know. I got her a Kindle ages ago. I think we've had it here for like 6 or 7 years. And basically I started using that on the weekend because I have a lot of Kindle books that I've purchased as well that don't have audio and that I need to read. So, yeah, the books are growing, people, but I can keep, you know, a couple of thousand books in my Kindle. I can't keep a couple of thousand books in my house because I could. I don't think my husband would appreciate it very much. So I'm looking forward to getting that, and but I'm just using the Kindle on the weekend to read the Apples Never Fall for the bingo prompt. It's just so much lighter. And like, I haven't been a big Kindle reader, but I have collected books on there from this BookBub. And as I said, some of them are free. Some of them, or actually most of the ones I've got have been free. I always get the free one, unless of course it's something that I'm just not interested in. But most of them are around the $1.99 mark or $1.09. Some are 99 cents, and they're all from I think I selected, when I first signed up for the email, you get to select, I think, 4 or 5 different genres and all the rest of it. So that is a way of keeping books coming into my inbox. And then once I've gone through, I just delete that email out. And sometimes I've even gone back in emails and I've been able to get the book for free when it hasn't been free because it's come up on special and all the rest of it. So it's called BookBub, and it's delivered to your inbox. It is through Amazon because it links to Kindle to purchase all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so I'm super excited for that to come, and then I'm actually making a concerted effort to get through some of these books in there. So if I don't have a physical book here to read, then I'll be reading it on Kindle, and if I don't have it on Kindle, I'll be doing Audible. Most of the Audible books happen during the day. Kindle and physical books happen in the morning and at the evening because I start my day and finish my day with books. So yeah, and that's only just been a recent thing as well. So basically, yeah, I'm just trying to start my day with a bit of reading and finishing my day with a bit of reading. And I sort of aim for about 100 pages a day on a physical or a Kindle. So, and so far it's sort of been working. I'll get close to it. Sometimes I only get 80 pages, but yeah, it just depends how tired I am at the end of the day. All right, so the next one that I read, which is book 3 in the Jessica Hunt series by Blake Pierce. The pages of that is 231. It was published in 2019, and the genre is suspense thriller. And this format was in audio. So this series I'm listening to in audio because there is something like 19 books and counting in this series, because 18 and 19 have not been released yet. They get released in January and March, I think it was. Or maybe it's January, February. I'm not too sure. But basically, we've had a book coming out. So we're up to April 2019. Either every month or every couple of months a book comes out. So this one, I've been enjoying this series. Book 3 sort of was starting to lose me a little bit. The only reason that I'm continuing on with this series and I'm not DNFing it, and for those that don't know what DNF is, do not finish. That's what that stands for, but I'm not DNFing it just yet. So the books are only short, like a couple of hours tops. They get me through the workday. I'm using the audiobooks as a productivity tool because I seem to put an audiobook in, get lost in the story, and just keep working. And I'm getting so much more done. So, because let's face it, I can procrastinate with the best of them. So, if any sort of productivity I can get from this is a good thing. So anyway, basically it's following the story of a criminal profiler, Jessica Hunt. She's just become a criminal profiler. I believe she's 29 years old or 30. And it's got a series of events that happen in each book, basically. It is her investigating a crime, and she's got to find out who the killer is. All the while, there is a back plot happening, coming along with it. While all this is happening in her day-to-day life, there is also this other issue that she's got happening, and that is her father. He is a serial killer. And he is the Ozark executioner. And when she was younger, she went into witness protection, and basically to get away, like hiding from him because he killed her mother and he forced her to watch. So that happened in the first couple of books. Okay, so that is that backstory there. But that is actually now starting to ramp up and all the rest of it in book 3. So, and we've also remember I was saying that in the last video that she was talking to another serial killer to find out about her father, because that other serial killer actually admired her father and her father had visited him and all the rest of it. So she was talking to him to find out more about her father because she just wants to find out about where he is and all the rest of it and bring him to justice because he has killed so many people. So that is that backstory happening there. And then we've got the other story happening where she's doing all the investigating and stuff like that. This book, I was a little bit disappointed because the first couple of chapters just recapped what happened in the first 2 books. And I don't think it really needed that. It maybe, warranted a couple of lines and that's about it. But it also, it was also wrapping it up a little bit as well. So about her husband and that sort of stuff. So, but I don't think it was necessary to have that much in there. Like, it was good because it gives you a bit of a refresher, but I don't think it, as I said, I just don't think it needed to be that much, but it is what it is. And so the book picks up, the last book ended with her going to FBI training. Okay. And so it picks up of her coming back. And yeah, and basically how she has worked out, because she has trouble sleeping and stuff like that, she's worked out there's different things that she can do to help her sleep and all that sort of stuff. Her character is building a little bit. I would have liked a little bit more growth in her character by now, but it's happening. It's slowly but surely happening. So that's a good thing. And as I said, it was a little bit predictable too. Like I can sort of see where the author's going now. So it was a little bit like predictable, but that may be because I'm in the story and I can see where it's going and it's meant to be like that maybe, but it was, yeah. And I'm not the only one that thinks that, because after I've read a book and I've wrote down my thoughts, I generally go and have a look on Goodreads and see what other people thought as well, so their reviews, so to speak. And I wasn't the only one that thought that about this book. So I've got a notebook that I keep beside me now when I'm reading, because I just can't scribble in a audiobook. So I've got a notebook beside me and I just jot down little notes and stuff like that, of my general thoughts and whatnot as I'm reading. And yeah, so, and then after I've finished, I'll go and check out, I'll go over to Goodreads, put that I've finished it. I generally don't write reviews over on Goodreads, but I will do a star rating and stuff like that. So if I give a 3-star, it's basically, it's an average book. Like it's a good book. It's average, you know, it wasn't nothing to write home about. 4 stars, it's bordering on getting there and I really enjoyed the book. 5 stars, I flat out enjoyed it, would recommend it to anybody. Pick that book up, read it. I have gone in and changed a couple of my ratings after talking about it, thinking about it, and rehashing over it, and thinking maybe it was a little bit too harsh on the book and stuff like that. So for the most part, if I really enjoy it, it'll get a 4-star most definitely. If it gets a 2-star, it just means that I was a little bit bored. It just didn't flow real good and all the rest of it. If it gets a 1-star or no rating at all, well, the book sucked. So... but for the most part, I do have some 5-star ratings over there, and I do have 4-star. I think there's a couple of 3s as well. But as time goes on, I've only just started using Goodreads, so as time goes on, I'm sure the star rating will change a little bit, and all the rest of it, and I can let you know on here anyway. But yeah, so. The character is developing and she's moving along. I would have liked her maybe to move along a little bit quicker, but that just could be my ratty brain going, you know, need to move it on, moving on, people, you know how it goes. I'm always fast paced and all the rest of it. But yeah, I did actually, as I said, I did give it a 4-star rating only because I am enjoying the storyline. It did have some pretty intense moments in there and all the rest of it. Thoroughly enjoying it. Chrissy, as I said, she found it for free on Kindle, so you might be able to still get that, but they're not that expensive on Kindle, and and I just get the Audible narration with it, and basically I think it cost me under $10 a book or something. The first couple were only like $5 or $6. So yeah, so that's how I'm sort of doing it. And then that's right. The first couple I bought through Audible. The third book I actually listened to. I just looked at my notes. I actually listened to this through Scribe because I found it on Scribe. So if you haven't subscribed to Scribe, it's I believe it is $8.99 US a month, and you have access to their catalog. Basically, there are some things that aren't available here in Australia. So some of the Virgin River series I haven't been able to get on Scribe, but this week I actually have been on Scribe. So Dorian Gray was on Scribe, The Perfect House, which is the book 3 in the Jessica Hunt series, and the latest Virgin River, which was book 9. It was all on Scribe this week. So it was a cheap week for reading, really. Shining and Carrie couldn't get on Scribe. I could only find that on Audible. So I had a spare credit there, and I bought one. So that wasn't too bad. So yeah, so if you haven't checked out Scribe and you like, and it's not just audiobooks on there, they also have ebooks and documents. And I found Scribe originally because I was looking for a manual for my vintage sewing machine, and when I typed in Singer sewing machine and the year and all the rest of it, Scribe came up first and I found it on there. Back then I think I had to pay for that manual, which was quite some time ago. I think that I can't even put a timeline on that. It was ages ago. And yeah, so basically now it's a monthly subscription. So I subscribe to that and it falls into my money per month that I can spend on media stuff. So Audible, Kindle, Scribe, and Readly, the Readly app for all my magazines and stuff like that. So, yeah, and so I've been using that. And so what I do is when I do my TBR at the beginning of the month, I will go into Scribe and find all the books that I can find on my TBR in there first, in audio or in ebook. And basically you just you can read it on your phone or whatever. And then I can just go to my saved and start the book up. And that's what I've done at the beginning of this month. I found all the books that I could find in Scribe, and then the rest I've got through Audible or I've got through Kindle. All right, so then that was Perfect House, Jessica Hunt, book 3. So obviously I'll be reading book 4 this coming week. With any luck, if everybody's back at school, and I've got a lot of stuff to do, so I need some audiobooks in the ear. The next book that I read was book 9 in the Virgin River series, and it's by Robin Carr. It had 373 pages. It was published in 2010 January. The genre is a romance, women's fiction. I don't know. It could fall under many things. Small town, rural is the setting. And as I said, it was a audiobook and on Scribe. All right, so basically this one is following the story of Francie and Sean. Sean is related to Luke that was in the last... I can't think of his last name. I didn't write that down, which was in the last book, and he's one of the brothers. And basically, Francie was an old girlfriend, and they separated because they weren't on the same page, which was the marriage page and children page. And yeah, so basically, he wasn't ready to settle down, and they went their separate ways. But he regretted that decision pretty much. A little while after they split up, he realised that he had done the wrong thing, and then he tried to find her, but he was too casual about it, so she just wrote him off, and basically they went their separate ways. And so it picks up 4 years later. He happens to be in a bar or restaurant or something, and a group of ladies walk in, and he sees her, and he wasn't sure at first because she had cut all her hair off and all the rest of it, and she didn't notice him sitting at the bar or anything like that. But basically, yeah, he seen her, and they reconnected, and there was a bit of a twist in that. And yeah, so it just follows along. It brings in Luke and his mother into it. It brings her mother into it. It brings the other family members also into it, and are all getting involved and all the rest of it. Not in a bad way, but yeah, and it was just a nice story and a little bit predictable of where it was going to go. A little bit flaky too. It wasn't the best book of the Virgin River series. I actually struggled a little bit with this. Like I got a lot of work done and all the rest of it, but I didn't rate the story, I guess, the storyline very much. Although it's set up, I guess it's setting up, like this book was a little bit of a setup because it's brought in his mother, who is basically going to be, I'd say she's going to come into the next one because it's sort of left it hanging there. And they'll probably touch a little bit more on what Sean and Francie do in future books, because that was wasn't a completed story either. And of course, there's the other storylines that have been developing out throughout the books and all the rest of it that are still in it. So there is 18, I believe, to this series. We are halfway through the series now. I'm still enjoying it. I still don't want to DNF it. I definitely want to keep reading the book. I've slated 3 of these books for this month. So by the end of the month, I should be up to book 11. If I can get another book in, I will. I've got a long drive to and from the Sunshine Coast, so I'll be able to probably get another one of those books in on that weekend as well. I don't fancy listening to a horror book while I'm driving, because I don't think that will end well. Especially if it's a scary one. But yeah, it was a good book. It was a pretty quick read as well. And yeah, if you like a little bit of, small town rural romance books, these are the books for you, because there's a lot of them. And the story is continuing on. I think the reason that I like this series is because it's a little bit lighthearted. And when I'm listening to it, I find myself giggling and stuff like that and picturing the people in my head. And I mean, I don't know if everybody does that, but I like to picture the story in my head and stuff like that. And it's just lighthearted. You don't really have to think about it and all the rest of it. It's just set in this small town. But like I'm telling you, it's going to turn into a military base soon, because all the military end up finishing up living there and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was just a really good story these are really good stories to follow along with and just listen to and just sort of cruise along and not have to worry about this, that, or the other. On that. So as I said, I've got another few books slated down in both the Jessica Hunt and the Virgin River. They're the 2 very lengthy series that I'm reading at the moment, or listening to rather. And they're just my productivity tool, because I seem to get a lot done. But that is it. I did also start, they're the books that I have finished, but I did start Ring by, now please don't butcher, I'm terrible at names. The name is Koji Suzuki. Okay, so I did start this. This book is, again, gone back to my TBR for October, and I can only get this on ebook, so I got it in Kindle. There is no audio book on this one, so I'm actually reading this one. I am about 20% the way through that book, and it's a new author to me as well. There is sequels to this book. It's called Spring and Loop, I believe, is the 3rd book in the series. As I said, the format is Kindle. It is a horror mystery. And it was published in 1991. Now, it's made it onto the classics list. So that's why it's on my TBR. And it's only got 283 pages. Excuse me. So I started that on the 7th of October, but I have yet to finish it because I'm actually now reading the prompt for Bingo, which I'm about halfway through. I think I'm 40% through that. So, yeah, it's interesting so far. That I don't find it very scary though. But yeah, time will tell, I guess. But yeah, so I'll be as soon as I finish that, I will discuss how I felt about it. But I've started taking some notes because although I can take notes on Kindle, but I'm new to Kindle, so I don't know how to use the features and stuff on it, so I'm getting used to it. I am still taking the notes in Kindle, but I'm also writing them down just in case I don't. I haven't saved them or stuff like that. But that is the books for this week. Coming up for the past week, as I said, I'm reading The Ring. I am reading Apples Never Fall, and I have the Haunting of Hill House and The Woman in Black slated for this week. So hopefully I'll get through them. I do have a lot on this week, so I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to end up with those, but the Haunting of Hill House and The Woman in Black are both on the classics list, and they are both audio. I have them already geared up in audio for those ones. And as I said, Ring and Apples Never Fall are both on Kindle, so I'm actually physically reading those because I can't get them on audio. But that's it for the books.
All right, so I've finished that motif now, and I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up down below. Anything that I talked about, I'll have all the links down below. And so yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe, everybody, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.